Hi. I'm Professor Sean Wise, and I am a business superhero. No. You heard me right. I'm a professor, and I'm a business superhero. It does beg the question, what exactly is a business superhero? Well, to me, a business superhero is someone who embodies all the great things that we strive to. Someone who sets their goals much higher than their immediate future. Someone who embodies success and self-discipline and selflessness. And I think you would all agree, in the early days of the 21st century, when community good seems to have been replaced with corporate greed, and when people seem to be less important than profit, we need more business superheroes. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm the first person in the world to look at superheroes as more than just children's entertainment. As far back as 7 decades ago, Captain America helped change the American population's view on World War II, as you can see in this image, as he personally punches Hitler in the face. Years later, comics continued to be socially relevant, as you'll see from this cover by Neil Adams of the 1970 series Green Lantern and Green Arrow. On the cover, Green Arrow's sidekick, unfortunately named Speedy, is seen to be using heroin on a comic book cover sold in stores across America. Why? To get a discussion going about the use of drugs in mainstream society. Superheroes aren't just for entertainment. In 1986, Art Spiegelman produced Mouse, a Holocaust allegory to allow students and youth and teen readers to better understand the horrors associated with that period in time. Went on to win the Pulitzer Prize. More recently, fellow TEDster has brought out a series called The 99, in which superheroes are embedded with the views and values of Islam, and Islam gets its very first superheroes. You'll even find superheroes in modern politics, as this cover from 2010 tells you. On it, you'll see one of the most recognized faces in the world, Spider-Man. And much bigger in the center, you'll see some president. But superheroes are more than that. They're more than just entertainment. They're a way for you to rise above, to become more than you are today, to become a business superhero. So I want to present to you the 5 things that I think we can all aspire to be business superheroes, and the 5 things you could do to get there. Right? There are business superheroes around us, and we're going to show them as examples. So first and foremost, you need to swear an oath. You need to have a mission. You need to be focused on something that you want to accomplish. The most famous of all missions, of course, Superman's. Truth, justice, and the American way. Which is interesting why the comic isn't sold in the Arab nations, and why the 99 has become so popular. Batman's another great character. As you'll see from this original strip, he loses his parents at age 8 to murder and crime. And he swears an oath in the last panel on the right to fight injustice wherever it is. Green Lantern from the 2011 summer blockbuster showed you the power of the oath. Every time he charges his ring, he tells you his oath. Business oaths exist too. The most famous in recent days from our friends at Google. Don't be evil. Right? That's actually their corporate mantra. Some say it's a response to Microsoft. Some say it's just an engineer's view of what software can really do in the world. But they have a mission. They've sworn an oath. The second thing that I think you have to learn from superheroes if you want to be a business superhero is you need to understand that with great power comes great responsibility. Now, many people associate this concept with issue 15 of Amazing Fantasy, or the Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, where Spider-Man, through inaction, loses one of his relatives. He fails to stop a burglar. That burglar goes on to kill his uncle. And at the end of the strip, it forces Peter Parker, as he walks off into the distance, to say these words: "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." Now, Stan Lee, the father of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and so many of the superheroes we've come to learn and love, coined that phrase, "With great power comes great responsibility." But if you think you've heard it before, you're pretty much correct. Some people attribute it to a President Kennedy speech when he was still senator. Other people have found it quoted by Churchill as he tried to get the U.S. into World War II early by addressing the U.S. Congress. My research has found it actually linked back to a 19th century French philosopher who said, "Noble oblige," the nobility is obliged. Those with power must use that power responsibly, right? Here's Batman using his power responsibly to respond to Occupy Gotham. And it says, "Instead of paying taxes to support this corporate system, I will put all my money where it does the most good. A utility belt full of sharp pieces of metal that I throw at the mentally ill and those who are in the 1%. I am Bruce Wayne, and I want to change the world." There are responsible business people too. Here we have Al Gore, the superhero of the environment, teaching us how global warming is truly evil. Recently, we've had the super rich friends come out to play, made up of Ted Turner, Bill Gates, Oprah, George Soros, and of course, Warren Buffett as Batman. The super rich friends have dedicated their fortunes to live on in philanthropy well after they've passed. Responsible business superheroes. Business superheroes also are famous for turning limitations into opportunities. I talked to you a little bit about Stan Lee's character Daredevil from the 1960s. Daredevil was blind, fighting crime blind. And you can tell by just looking at his costume. Look at the colors, red and yellow. Who wears red and yellow, right? But Daredevil wasn't actually the first blind superhero. That honor actually goes back to the 1940s in a character called Dr. Midnight. But what Daredevil showed was, it's up to you to turn adversity into opportunity. You see that later on in 1986 when the Joker shoots Barbara Gordon, also known as Batgirl, and cripples her, leaving her paraplegic. She doesn't give up her superhero duties. She just evolves, and she becomes the cyber sleuth known as Oracle. You see that business people can also overcome limits. In fact, not only can business people rise above their personal adversity, they can turn it into a very profitable business model, right? Amazon and this superhero turned limited shelf space into the world's biggest bookstore. This fellow TEDster brought the Grameen phone to India, and through his efforts and the efforts of his colleagues, as shown in his TED Talk, he was able to actually increase the GDP of India more than all foreign aid combined. A limitation. Rural India doesn't have cell phones, an opportunity to change the world. I think the superheroes, no matter where they come from, they almost always have the literary device known as the weakness, or as I like to call it, know your kryptonite. Superman comes from the planet Krypton. Following him as a baby in a rocket are all these little meteors. When he encounters them later in life, they strip him of his powers. So Superman has to always not only be aware of his kryptonite, but he has to mitigate the effects that it has. If you don't mitigate your weaknesses, this is what happens. You turn into the Hulk, a raging monster who is triggered by repressed child abuse memories and triggered when he gets into a rage, when his ego isn't able to be controlled. Well, what happens to business superheroes when their ego isn't controlled? Conrad Black would be my example. Right? Conrad Black once wrote, "The only charge that anyone can level against me is that I am insufficiently generous to myself." Any wonder he's going to jail? Lex Luthor also thinks he's the good guy in the story. The last thing that I want to leave you, the thing that I really want you to take away, the thing that I hope all my students take away when they come and study with us, is that you need to be fearless. Now, I get that from my love of Green Lantern, as you'll see from my ring and my belt buckle, right? Green Lantern is a character which is an interstellar policeman, one of 3,600 3,600 people to wear the ring. The ring gives them unlimited power. But in order to get the ring, to earn the ring, to be worthy of the ring, you have to be fearless. Many people mistakenly think that being fearless is not having fear. That's not correct. Being fearless isn't not having fear, not being without fear. It's having fear and overcoming it. Having fear and not letting it shackle you to mediocrity. The Green Lanterns show that with great willpower, you can overcome fear. And I think that's important for all business superheroes as they go along. Steve Jobs, one of the ultimate business superheroes, with his power of mesmerizing you with new brand products. You will buy the new iPhone, even though you bought one last year too. Right? Definitely a business superhero. But he was thrown out of his own company. The company he founded, he was thrown out of. He could have been in fear of that the rest of his life. But instead, he rededicated himself, came back and led his company to be one of the greatest innovators of the last decade. I think that there's a lot of trouble in our world. I think that in order to overcome it, you'll agree with me that we need more business superheroes, more people who swear an oath, more people who manage power responsibly, more people who turn limitations into opportunities, who understand and mitigate their kryptonite, who are able to be fearless. In the early days of the 21st century, we're seeing banks, bailed out by taxpayer money, foreclosing on the very taxpayers whose money they're using. We need business superheroes. We need to rise above our limitations, to see ourselves as having a role greater than ourselves, to not sit by and watch evil go unchecked. We need to put on our capes, figuratively for some, metaphorically for others, but we need to rise above all of these issues and become what is truly on the inside of all of us, which is truly our opportunity to. We need to put on our utility belts. We need to put on our power rings. We need to become business superheroes. Thank you very much.